We're going live in like a couple seconds. Today we're talking about a reality check. Share the live, guys. Share the live. Share the live. Let's the shares. Let's run the lights up, guys. Let's show the love. You ready? So this is good. This is good. Everything good? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yo, 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 yo. Welcome back to another episode of Don't Let That Go Over Your Head podcast. They call me the host with the most, Q the boss. So today we're talking about something that I really like. It's called reality check. I truly believe that there are tons of people who need a reality check, right? Sometimes I have to check myself also. So I'm not going to sit here and make myself sound like I'm God's gift and I understand everything. But sometimes I do need a reality check, right? I feel like most people don't live in reality. And the reason why I can say this confidently is I feel like most people lie to themselves. The most dangerous thing a person can do is lie to themselves. Today, we actually going to get on the phone today, guys. We're going to get some phone calls, and I'm going to give you the phone number. If you want to call in, you can call in. We're talking about a reality. No calls today? Okay, we ain't going to do no calls. My guy said no, right? So we're going to talk about a reality check. Today, I want to talk about certain things I see that a lot of people don't live in reality. Let's go down the list. Social media is the first thing I want to talk about. It is extremely hurting the culture. And the reason why I say hurting the culture, it's so falsified that so many people believe everything they see on social media to the point that social media has become 100% fact. Social media is some people they've mastered the art of the illusion. They're masters of it, right? They show you what they want to show you. What I've noticed is a lot of influencers that say that they're doing so well never show you their home. They never show you their living situation. They show you more like Airbnbs, hotels. They always show you these things, but they never show their actual living situation, right? I say don't go live in the Airbnb. Don't go live in your hotel room. Go live in your actual living situation. But they don't want you to see that. Most people are falsified documents. They're fake. They're not real, right? It's like buying a bootleg Jordan. It looked like a Jordan. It smelled like a Jordan. But is it really a Michael Jordan sneaker? And that's the same thing as social media. It looks good. It may even smell good. But the reality is not what it looks like in real life. And that's the problem. So many people believe everything that they see on social media. The one thing I always talk about is one thing I can't stand with influencers is they say things like this. As soon as you turn on YouTube at this point, everything is, hey, you over there doing nothing with your life. You want to get rich overnight? I'll show you how to make $1 million in a week. That don't even make sense. Like, and it fascinates me that there are people that sit there and actually believe that to be truth, wholeheartedly. Right? I can understand a young, impressionable mind. But we're talking about grown-ups, right? Anything that sounds too good to be true, chances are it's too good to be true. Reality check. Some people need to get a reality check. They need to wake up. As long as you keep lying to yourself, your mind will start ultimately believing you're lying because your lying becomes true to your mind. So a liar don't even know at times that they're lying because they believe their own lies so much. And that's the issue. Let's get into some more details about reality check. I had a homegirl, good friend of mine, right? And she was going through a rough patch in her relationship. She's lied to herself so long that she actually believes that her relationship is good because she's speaking rather than the action. The guy doesn't even take her serious, but yet and still she believes it because this is what she told herself. She needs a reality check. Someone shouldn't, from the outside looking in, shouldn't be able to see what's going on more than you. You should be able to live in your reality. If you can't live in your own reality, then your reality becomes someone else's window, right? And most people live in a fairy tale world because their minds are so captivated by what everyone else have going on that they don't see what they don't have going on. And that's a problem. We watch other people's windows too much, and it's become so noticeably transparent. Why don't you take the Windex, right? Take a paper towel, spray your window, wipe your window, and let's start getting the smudges off your windows before we start overly observing other people's windows. See, the problem is we overly exert ourselves by staring into other people's windows. See, certain things may look like they're better than what they truly are, but doesn't necessarily mean it's true, right? It's easy to pretend. That's why I call people David Blaine, because they're illusions. They're good at pretending, right? A guy said to me, "What did I start doing? Why did I start doing this podcast?" And I said, the reason why I started doing this podcast is because I genuinely care about people becoming their better selves, right? I genuinely can honestly say wholeheartedly that's what I care about. And the reason why I care about that is because my legacy is not going to be what I bought and the houses that I own or the cars I've driven. It's going to be what the impact I left on people before I left. Sometimes we don't understand that legacy means more than anything. Your legacy. Let me say that again. Sometimes we overly exert ourselves by wondering about the cars we drive, the houses we live in, but we don't overly push the fact that we're not leaving any impact on people's lives. When you impact someone's life, you can change someone's whole trajectory as far as their outcome in life, right? Everyone has that teacher that came in their life that actually made them better individuals. And why I say that is because they believed in them, right? We have to understand that so many people are impressionable. And by being impressionable, they believe so many things that the world is telling them is truth. Again, I tell people all the time, I would have so much more following so much faster if I came on this podcast and say things like making women go against men. If I tell you how to get rich overnight, right? If I started this narrative, which is false, more people will tap into it. Why? Because more people want to hear distress, aggravation, headaches, hardship, and lies. That's what the world seems like it cares about more. The ones that tend to tell the truth, they don't get the love the same level. A guy asked me if I had to compare myself to a rapper, who would I compare this podcast to? I said, honestly, he said, yeah. I said, there's two artists I think that comes to mind in this generation. He said, who? I said, one, I would have to definitely say Kendrick Lamar. And secondly, I would have to say J. Cole. He said, why is that? I said, because those two guys, they have a cult following. And that's what we're building over here at Don't Let That Go Over Your Head podcast. I would rather build this thing brick by brick every single day, and the people that are supporting it are real, than have a bunch of people on here just want to hear felonious things. That's not my character. But let's get back to this false documents and these fairy tale things that people say. There's a lot of false things going on, right? I know people who preserve photos in their phone just to post moments to look like they're on vacation longer than what they are. This is how bad the world is. Let me say that again. I know people who post pictures moments way after they've returned from their vacation just to look like they're still on vacation. This is the world we live in, right? Reality check, right? Let's talk of this narrative. One of my guys, Kinsey, I love him to death. We talk about finances a lot. And the reason being is because we're both very two guys that want to be the alphas of our homes, meaning we want to be guys that put our families in better positions, right? Most guys that are around, well, all the guys around me are like that, right? They all like that. We want to bring our families to better positions, right? But so the other day we was having a conversation, and when I spoke to him, he said something to the nature of we talk about money. And after he left, I've noticed something. Most people don't really understand how hard it is to really be a millionaire. They really don't understand it. Let's go into nature. Let's break down numbers. Less than 1% of Americans will see those kind of realms. Less than 1%. So if the whole total population was 100 people, only one person will get to that level. That's a very low number, right? But yet and still, we make it seem so easy to get to these things. And the problem with the reality is falsified. People believe a lot of foolishness. It is not easy to get to those levels. For instance, let's break it down to sports. I love talking about sports because I'm a former athlete. Anyone that has ever done anything competitive, they will understand it, right? So look at the logic. We have a bunch of players coming to NBA. The NBA, let's say, has over 300 players. Let's just make it 300. Out of 300 players, every year, what, 5 people get into the Hall of Fame? 5 people? 5? So what I'm trying to get at is to get to those levels of Hall of Fame, 1% meaning the Hall of Fame of success, of economics, right? 1%. And it's actually less, but it's let's just say 1%. Only 4 to 6% of Americans get into the realm of 100K a year. But it's so falsified that so many people make so much more money. And it's so much pretending. And one of the main reasons that you're seeing that the reason why most people don't get to higher levels, and this is the truth, is because men and women aren't working together. It's too much competition. You have a man working against a woman against working against a guy, not realizing they should be working together, right? No one is perfect. Let's get that. Let's get that on record. Men are not perfect. Women are not perfect, right? I can sit here and name 5 things about wrong with men. I can sit here and name 5 things wrong with women. I can go back all day. We can go back and forth all day about what's wrong with both natures. But again, we have to understand a man is a man, a woman is a woman. And the best thing about it is we're supposed to compliment each other for what I'm not. If I'm bad with money, I don't want a woman that's bad with money also, right? If I don't know how to save, I don't want somebody else that don't know how to save, right? And this is the logic. And this is the reality we need to understand. A man and a woman is supposed to economically work together. Whether your relationship is man and man, woman, woman, doesn't matter. Whatever the couple may be, should be working together. The problem is there's too much competition. And that's a major dilemma in 2023. Too many people are working against each other. They don't understand that the whole concept of a relationship is to come together to ignite your life together, right? If I'm able to bring the wood, if you can bring the fire, that means we have something called a fire. If you have wood and you don't have a fire, you do not have a fire. You just have a match and he has wood. But in order for it to work, it has to come together, right? I never see nobody eat peanut butter without the bread or the jelly without the bread. You need both, right? But yeah, she's weird. She's weird. She said it. But what I'm trying to get at is, guys, we need to understand life is about living in reality. But when you keep creating a false reality, your mind starts ultimately believing in reality. I'll give you a story. Young guy, he was in my shop yesterday, and he's 27 years old. I don't want to go into too depth because I don't know if he listens to my podcast. He might take this very well. I don't care, right? He needs to hear this, right? Younger guy, he lives with his parents, and he doesn't pay any bills. So my concept is saying to him, there's nothing wrong with that if you're not utilizing the situation to put yourself in a better position. And I tell my young guys, I don't think it's smart for you to rush outside your parents' house, right? I tell you to save your money. Put yourself in a position that when it does end or the situation is not the same, you're able to be a lot further. It's like basically being Santa Claus. The day you leave your parents' house, you should have a big red bag of money, especially when you're not paying bills, right? You shouldn't be enjoying your parents laboring and not putting yourself in position. See, there's a myth right now. This is when we talk about the reality check is a lot of young people believe that you're supposed to enjoy life when you're young and ultimately struggle when you're older. That is not true. Let me say that one time. A lot of young people believe the nature of I'm supposed to struggle when I'm older, but I'm supposed to have fun when I'm young. That's not true. It's not YOLO. You're supposed to set yourself up, right? And then in your later days, you're able to enjoy life because of the fact that you put yourself in positions, ultimately allowing yourself to work and labor less because you've done what you were supposed to do. But if you do the opposite, you'll be the older person trying to play something called catch up. And that's what a lot of people are going to do because they push in a false narrative. The false narrative is you're supposed to enjoy your life while you're young. That's not true. You're supposed to have fun at moments and live your best life, but not in the sense of traveling the world and spending all your resources doing it. You can go to parties without spending tons of money. You shouldn't be buying a bottle. You should be buying cups, right? You shouldn't be buying Louis Gucci Prada. You should be in Gap and Old Navy. There's levels to life, and there's nothing wrong with living in your reality. But the problem is if you keep falsifying your reality will ultimately be false. A lot of people are underperforming in life because they tend to live in a false reality. It's not that they're bad people, it's just their concept of life is wrong. And when your concept of life is wrong, so will your mind be. And if your mind is wrong, so will your actions be because it goes thought, action, results. So if your mind is thinking wrong, then the actions are going to be wrong, ultimately leading to the wrong results. That's how life is. Most people have poor results because of the way they think. Let me say that one more time. You have is a thought. Everything you do in life starts with a thought, right? Then leads to an action. Then after the action, you lead to a result. Most people results is based on the way they think, right? And then the worst person is the person that don't think at all. They just do things, right? But that's not normal. That means something is wrong with them. I have to get up and think about eating before I go eat, right? I have to go think about using the bathroom before I use the bathroom. Normal people think about things before they move, right? I think about going to work. I think about what time I have to be there. You're thinking about everything. But the problem is in the 2023s, I've noticed that so many people don't even think. It's a lot of freelancing. In order to be great, you have to plan. In order to be successful, you have to plan. In order to achieve certain levels, you have to sacrifice. Right? Every week we sacrifice while we're here shooting this podcast. Why? Because I know my listeners really care. And on top of it, my guys, we work hard to keep constantly bringing you guys content. Like a lot of people see Q the boss, but they don't see that I have a team. One thing about life, and I want you to understand, and the reason why I brought up this team thing is because of the fact that no woman or man is an island. No one sits alone in the middle of the ocean by themselves, right? Nothing of a big magnitude does that. Every big continent is attached to something, right? So those little islands that sit out in the middle of the ocean by itself, that's different, right? But for the most part, the bigger continents sit next to another bigger continent. What I'm getting at is any person that wants to be successful understands that you need a team, right? I'm a guy that people don't see my team, but yet still I need my team. My team they do a lot to help me push this platform. Because again, no man, no woman is an island. That's a reality check. The people that believe that they're going to be successful without a team, I want to be the bearer of bad news today, and I want to. It's not true. In order to be successful, it was only 24 hours in a day. But if I take another person and he put another 24 next to that person, that sounds like 48. And then 72, right? And time is how we work it. So let's just say after working my day, my work hours every day, let's say I have 2 hours to do what I want to do, right? That means if I can put 2 times 5 is what? That's 10. That's 10 hours on the idea. Average work shift is 8 hours, right? But if you don't have multitude of people working multiple hours on the idea, then the idea will stay stagnated because there's not enough work going into the idea. Most people they're not wrong. It's about how they're going about the dream. The dream is wrong. And it's not that it's a bad thing, but it's about creating a formula to actually execute the dream. But how do you execute the dream when you don't understand that you don't have enough time? And one of the most valuable commodities that we have in life is time. And if you're not utilizing your time in the right way, you're going to lose your time. And as you lose time, so will your dreams fade. But not realizing that it's better to own 1% of a multi-million. Listen to this logic. If you own 10% of $1 million company, how much you make a year? $100,000. If you own 100% of a company that makes $100,000, who makes more money? It's the same thing. But it's an ego thing to say I own 100% of my company. Well, look at the logic. Look what I just said to you. If you own 10% of a company that makes $1 million a year, that means you make $100,000 a year. If you own 100% of a company that makes $100,000 a year, me and you make the same numbers. And you'll say to me, yo, you only own 10%, but we make the same amount of money. But here's the logic. As that 100% owner, what I would do is find someone that can take my 100% and grow it. So I'll sell 10%. Why? Because this person can bring me an additional 10% on my revenue. So now we're pushing it to 200,000 and then 300,000. Some of the most prominent people don't own majority of their companies. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. Steve Jobs. Why? Because they understand team. Now you put people in positions, so therefore you're able to make bigger moves. If you don't think like that, then you're not thinking on a business standpoint. Reality check. Jay-Z is a very prominent, successful mogul. 50 Cent is another successful mogul. Puff Daddy is another successful mogul. Every name I just named, I could name somebody that's attached to each one of these people. Let's say Jay-Z, you got Dame Dash and Cameron Biggs, right? We're going to say Jay-Z, you got, we're going to say 50 Cent. You got the whole G Unit, you got Shaw Money XL, you got Dr. Dre, you got Eminem. Could I keep going? Right? Let me throw another name out there. Right? I can keep going all day long. Every mogul and every successful person has a team attached to them. Every single person, because everyone has a role. If one of my guys was here, I don't know what I would have did. I would probably just have to go home because I don't understand this magnitude of the intents of the electronics. I don't understand it. So that's not my thing. But we have a guy that's on the team. That is his thing. Right? Everyone serves a purpose. And this is the reality check that most people need to understand. When you look at a human being and don't understand that everyone serves a purpose, then something is wrong with you. The most unsuccessful person still has a purpose. He just hasn't, or she hasn't found it yet. Everyone is created for a reason. Everyone has value. Everyone has a purpose in life. And if you don't understand that, then you're weird. It's not the person. Sometimes you get blindfolded by life because of the fact that things may not be going the way you want. Sometimes we too busy chasing what we want opposed to what we need. And that's a human nature trait, right? We have right now. More people spend more time chasing what they want opposed to what they need. Start looking for what you need opposed to what you want. Sometimes your wants can be interchangeable. I've seen things that we wanted change, right? I can sit here and describe the woman I wanted, but then I got it and it wasn't for me, right? Because that could be my insecurities that made me choose that person. So that's the issue that we don't understand. Sometimes we stand next to things because of the fact that we're insecure, right? We stay at jobs that we feel like we've outgrown because we too nervous to try to go into the workforce again and look around again. A lot of us is fearful. And fear has killed a lot of kings and queens from them achieving their greatest selves. Right? I remember one of my young guys, he's here right now, and he told me he wanted to be a bus driver. I told him I was proud. And then when he actually accomplished it, I was like, wow. To sit yourself down and decide to do something and actually execute it. Because one of the problems we had with him initially was his execution. It's not that he's not gifted or he's not smart. He didn't have the execution. So that's why I'm giving him flowers today because of the fact that he was able to execute something that he thought of in his own brain. We didn't tell him to be a bus driver. He chose to be a bus driver. And he went and took the test, passed the test, and now he's a bus driver. You see what I'm trying to say? That's how humans are. When you really put yourself in positions to make certain moves, you'll be surprised at what you can accomplish. Because if you would have told me 3 years ago he would have been a bus driver, I would have said, I don't believe it. I'm being honest. I would have never seen it happening. But again, he believed in himself enough to the magnitude of what he decided to do what he had to do. And that's what a lot of people need to understand. We put limitations on ourselves based on other people's trajectory. And that's a problem. Let me say that one more time. We put our own expectations on other people. Let me say it one more time. The major issue is we put our own trajectory on people, and then when a person overachieves or do more than what we expected, we tend to say they're lucky. Are they exceptional? How are they exceptional when the fact that it's you put the limits on them and you don't know who they are? I don't know who I am. I don't know what I'm fully capable of because only God does. And that's the truth. Only the creator could understand what I can do or what I can't do. Most people don't even know what they can or cannot do because they never even put themselves in position to even try to do something. Soon as things get a little rocky, they run. They get scared, right? Fear and having the unknown aspect of life is the most beautiful thing because when you start achieving things, you start looking at yourself with prominence. Like I just said that about my guy about the bus. He was blushing the whole time when I was saying it. He was, right? But that's a beautiful thing. I'm proud of it. And the person that said, oh, it's just a bus driver. I don't think it's just a bus driver. I think this is a young guy who committed himself to doing something, right? I don't care if you're a factory worker. I don't care if you're a bus driver. I don't care if you're a teacher. It's you executing something that you wanted to do. My man's girl here today, she just took her test for the board for the teacher's exam. And she said to me, I'm waiting for, I'm like, I already know the results because I know who you are, right? If anything, you're going to over execute. And that's a beautiful thing about you, right? And this is what I like to do over here. We like to give each other our flowers, right? And the reason why is because I'm not a hater. I'm not a jealous person. I don't understand how someone can be jealous of someone pursuing their greater self. I think any true human and with a beautiful soul tends to look at people and want to pull out their best self out of them. Because if I know for a fact I'm a strong person, right? Some people may not have my mental or strength and capacity. But by me standing next to them, it makes them that much more confident. And there's nothing wrong with that. It is very intelligent for someone that knows they're not good at something to put people around them that are. I think that takes an extreme level of security. If I know I'm not good at money and I choose a woman that is good at money, that says a lot. That's a smart move. But you know what you're going to say? Your girl run the money. No, my girl is better with the money. This is the ego we need to get down now. 2023 should be the year of let's release our egos and let's live in reality, right? If a person you're dating is better at certain things, then you should accept it and let it be what it is. Because you're going to be that more effective and that more efficient at what it is because of the fact that you're good at it. I remember one time there was a girl, she got mad at her boyfriend because he's not good at washing clothes, right? He's not good at it. But here's the problem. She said, I'm not your traditional woman. This is not you guys. I'm not your traditional woman. And I said, what do you mean? She said, I'm not here to wash clothes. I said, you want to hear something funny? She said, what? I said, you're actually better at washing clothes than him. She goes, yeah. I said, do you think that this guy want to mess up y'all clothes on purpose? She said, no. I said, so won't you just wash the clothes? Right? And if we learn how to adapt this mentality, we'll see a lot more successful couples. But most people won't adapt this mentality because it's easier to follow society standard opposed to create the new standard for society. It's easier to follow the world than it is to go on a route that no one is going, right? It's easier to accept what everyone else is doing because of the fact that you don't want to be left alone or you don't want to feel like you're isolated from everybody else. But I'm going to tell you something, and I'm going to say this on record. Some of the most prominent people are the ones who is willing to step outside of their box. Some of the most prominent people, let me say this again, in life, some of the most prominent people are the ones who is willing to step outside of their box. Some of the most prominent people are the ones who are willing to make themselves uncomfortable. Some of the most prominent people are the ones who did things that people said they couldn't do. And the reason why they're successful is because of the fact that they chose to go against what everyone else said. You can't put limits on somebody else because you don't believe you can do it. Because you believe you can't, so therefore I can't. How sick that sounds. That sounds very immature. But we have to understand when you gravitate into your better self, you have to be conscious of who your circle is and who you're around. That's the one thing I tell people to check in reality. Stop trying to make someone play a position in your life that they're not made for. Let me say that one more time. Stop making people play a position in your life that they're not made for. See, the one thing is I understand what I'm good at and I understand what I'm not good at. I can sit on this podcast and talk, but the one thing I cannot do is sit down and master a record and engineer a song. I cannot do that. I don't have the patience, and I don't have the patience. I don't have the skill of doing it. That's not my gift. But I know what my gift is. Record me and I'm going to go crazy, right? But that's my mentality. When you try to make things what it's not, you tend to end up losing more because of the fact that you're not meant to do certain things. And it's okay. The best thing in life is one who knows how to pivot, right? If things are not going the way you want, you pivot. And that's a beautiful thing when a person can do that. When you're able to pivot, it's like, let me, you know what, this ain't working. Let me pivot. Let me pivot. The other day, I'll give you a story. One of the guys used to be around us a lot. And he's in the beginning, he was around me all the time. He came in my shop the other day. He said, I need to talk to you. I said, what up? He said to me, I just want to apologize to you. Right? This is So he said to me, I just want to apologize to you. So I looked at him and said, what do you want to apologize about? He said, yo, bro, the words you've been saying are so true. And I'm going to be honest with you. I was immature and I didn't want to be receptive of it. I said, let me ask you a question. He said, what? I said, did I get mad at you? He said, no. I said, did I curse you? He said, no. Did I yell at you? He said, no. I said, you know, while I was able to accept it, he said, why? I said, because I knew you was immature, right? I knew eventually you were mature to the magnitude of understanding what real love is. Real love don't lie to you. Real love tells you the truth whether you want to hear it or not. Real love pushes you to be your better self. One of the most talented guys I know, and I'm going to give him his flowers today, is a guy by the name of Dre, right? It's Q the Boss and Boss Dre. Dre is one of the most talented guys I know, by far. Dre is the guy that if you sit him in front of something and say, Dre, I don't want to hear it, figure it out. Guess what Dre does? He figures it out. And I tell him all the time, bro, like, stop telling me what you can't do, bro, because you can do it. You've done things that surpass what I haven't even thought of. Right? This is a guy that plays a major part in the whole "don't let that go over your head" movement. And you don't see him, but he does a lot. Right? And this is what I want everybody to understand. My team, my guy Tyler's, I have two Tylers, right? My guy Chris, my guy Kenzie, my guy Dre, and the tag along today is Kenan, right? Tag along today. And we got Jay Smurda in the building too. But what I'm trying to say is, guys, when you learn that you are only as strong as the team you're walking with, it says nothing. Whether they anoint me the leader or not the leader, at the end of the day, if you're a leader, if you can lead people to the promised land, it says volumes about you, right? When I say if you make yourself successful and only yourself successful, you didn't do nothing special. But when you make people around you think greater, more successful, you're doing amazing work. And we got to call it what it is. It's amazing when a person understands that in reality, the whole concept of life is not being selfish. Most of the world is very selfish. And the reason why they're selfish is because there was a saying years ago is self-preservation. How can we be brothers and sisters when we talking about self-preservation? Some people got so much money, they don't even know what to do with. Right? And these are people, the people that you should be helping, don't help me because I'm in a country where I can actually fix my life. I'm not talking about lazy people. I'm talking about the people that don't have opportunities. This is the world I'm talking about. There are countries where people don't have opportunities, right? To the ladies in this world right now, I want to say I commend you and I take my hat off to you. The reason being is because if you really want to talk about it, women haven't had this many rights or this much rights for a very long period of time, right? And they're doing very prominent things. And I love the fact that the women are doing so many things. And the men that get insecure about the women doing so much better are the ones who aren't doing well, right? But if your sisters is running a hard race and they're going to school and they're getting their degrees and they're chasing their better selves, and some of them are still mothers, right? How you not commend that? I mean, you a hater. It's not about a vagina or a penis. It's wrong and what's right. I commend my sisters. A lot of men get when you start talking high about women. A lot of men need to step their game up because of the fact that they're very insecure, right? And I'm just gonna call it what it is. See, I can't get mad at a female, right? The other day, I'm gonna tell you a story. We was having a conversation. A guy said he wrote on my page. The video said, I said, let me see. Okay. So the guy said to me, and I want you to hear this really well. I did a video. The video said is on my YouTube channel. For those who don't know, it's on Empower Dynasty on YouTube. Anyway, I did a video. The video said it is one thing to conquer a woman's body, but it's another thing to conquer her mind, her soul, and her heart. It's an extreme difference, right? The guy wrote on my page, it's nasty for a woman to allow a man to conquer her body without conquering her heart. I wrote him back and I said, brother, I don't want to insult you, but you sound like you live in 2000. No, you live in 23 BC. I said, bro, if you have an itch, you scratch it as a man, guys. We being honest. You scratch it. If a woman is single and have no relationship and decides to have it, she has an itch. She wants to scratch it. I don't see nothing different between a man and a woman doing that. If a person is single and they choose to be intimate with somebody, Tyler, if it's a woman or if it's a guy, it's the same thing. Guys, we need to break out of this narrative. I'm sorry. Again, if she's single and she chooses to scratch her itch, I don't see nothing wrong with a man doing that. It's the same thing. But when he got mad and said to me, well, a woman don't do that. I said, bro, the woman you can choose to date doesn't do that. But in reality, a woman does what she feels right for her. I don't want, as a man, and I'm saying this on record, I don't want to put the standard of what a woman is. I'll put the standard of what I want my woman to be, right? But I'm not going to put it on the totality of women and vice versa for women. You shouldn't put the standard of what a man is. You should say, this is the standard of what I expect my man to be. But every man ain't going to be like that. And what you might consider a man, the next man might not see it as a man. And that's just reality. So we need to stop putting our standards on other people and start understanding that everyone has their gifts and their weaknesses. There are some men out here right now that are not good providers, but they're great nurturers. And there are women out here right now who are not great providers, but they're great nurturers. Look at that statement I just said. There are men out here who are great nurturers, but not great providers. And there are women out here who are great providers, but not great nurturers. Right? And that's the reality. The world is changing. And if you don't evolve to the times, you're going to get left behind. This is the reality we live in. We need to stop falsifying the world and making the world to what we want the world to be. The only difference is we can do in this world is be the examples we want to see in it. That's the change. Stop focusing on what everyone else is doing and start worrying about what you ain't doing. And that's fixing this world or living better in the world. You know, so anyway, long story short, this guy that I was talking about, when he came to apologize to me, I wasn't offended because what happens in life is I knew it was more of a maturity thing. And I was able to accept it because I know that he was very immature. And now he's maturing. So now that he's maturing, he's able to speak his piece and say sorry. And a lot of us aren't willing to do that. There are people on his live, there are people on his YouTube channel, there's people everywhere right now that should be looking at certain people and apologizing. There are people you owe an apology to. And life will never go right until you fix that. Let me say that one more time. There are people right now who wake up every single day and they know that they owe someone an apology and they expect life to just happen for them, but life will not happen for you until you go wrong your rights. No, let me say that one more time. There are people who wake up every single day and they owe someone an apology. But until they do that, no, nothing is going to change in their life until they right their wrongs. And until you understand that you have done a lot of wrongs, you don't give a time limit on you ready for things to happen for you now because you've done a lot of bad things for years, right? And it's going to take a while for things to fix. Just because you're ready now, you want Godspeed, right? That's what they say, Godspeed. They call it Godspeed. And the reality check is there's no such thing. God will fix it when He's ready to fix it. And everything in life happens when God is ready, right? So don't worry about the numbers. Don't worry about what's not going on. Don't worry about when things are going to happen. Worry about what you're not doing and what you could be doing. Let's start focusing on ourselves. Let's start working on the things that matter the most and start working on ourselves. The longer we spend time wasting and complaining, the longer we can't fix ourselves, right? The reality of life is, the reality of today is, how do you work on oneself, right? How do you work on yourself? This is a conversation that we really should be having. For my people that's on my live, give me some ways. How can you work on yourself? I'm going to start with one, right? One way to work on yourself is being honest to yourself. I think that's the number one transparency that everyone can fix their problems. If I know I'm overweight, right, and I choose to lie to myself about being overweight, right, how do I fix being overweight when I already think that I'm not overweight? You get my logic? So that's what I'm saying by living in reality. One person says self-love. Self-love is very, very prominent. I do love the word self-love because self-love is you should love yourself, right? Another person said looking inward more. I agree, right? One person says self-care. Another person says self-educate. A lot of people need to self-educate themselves. The most prominent people I've learned in life are the ones who chose to learn things on their own. One thing I've learned is school system tells you that just because you can retain information that means you're intelligent. That's not true. That is not true at all. A lot of times the valedictorian in high school don't become the most successful person. A lot of the times the mid-tier students become the best in life. The middle class like grade students, because they also know how to work hard. They had work ethic. They had everything around the board. So they were balanced. It wasn't just they were good at reading, right? They were good at every subject. They were balanced. So let's say you're good at just science. More than likely that valedictorian went into a core, right? Whether it was math, architecture, engineering, right? All of these things. But if a person was balanced and he was good across the board, Tyler, who you think is more dangerous? If that valedictorian was good in school, but watch this, Chris, he was good. He eventually he went into something, math, engineering, science, bio, something. But if you had a student in high school who was clean, equal across the board, that's a very dangerous person because that means that person is good at everything, right? That's a utility knife. You know, the thing about life is let's live in reality. Let's stop focusing on the things that's not real and start focusing on the things that is. The things that we can change, we need to focus on more. We spend a lot of time on the things we can't even change. I've noticed that someone woke up today and cried about their financial situation. And you know what they did all day? They cried about their financial situation. They did absolutely nothing to change it, but cried about it all day. All that energy they spent on crying, they could have been looking for a job. One of my guys the other day, he has a car. He said to me, yo, Q, I ain't gonna lie, I'm in between jobs. He said, I don't know what to do. I said, yo, bro, one thing about life is luckily you have a vehicle. He goes, yeah. I said, why don't you do Uber Eats and Grubhub until you get back on your feet? I ain't doing that. I said, bro, what are you talking about? Any good job, you're gonna have to go through a whole vigorous process of hiring. It's not gonna be one, two, three. You were making 60 to 100K at your last job. Now you got pride and ego. Pride and ego will keep you broke. Let me say that again. Pride and ego will keep you broke. That's reality. I'm gonna tell you something. It is better to have something coming in than not have nothing coming in. But a lot of people tend to not. Oh, I would never do this job, and I would like, come on, man. You thinking crazy. So a person that gets up and hustle every day legally is frowned upon and laughed at because they choose to be legal. They choose not to be one guy out here or one woman out here trying to rob people and stick up people. So the fact that they do something illegal, we're gonna laugh at that. They're doing something legal, and we're gonna laugh at that. I find that to be crazy. That's one less person you got to worry about trying to rob you. That's one less person you got to worry about that's trying to hurt you, right? Reality check, right? You can't be picky about jobs when your finances are hurting. I agree 150 million%. I would work at McDonald's as long as my kids is eating. Some people I would never do. I'm like, yeah, it's you, but I would, right? And the reason why I would is because I would rather be there because when you go to jail, you're gonna be working for 10 cents an hour. You got people that work in jail that make $1 a day. $1 a day. But it fascinates me. Let me just say this. I found out that people that can go to jail and work hard for crumbs, but won't work a natural job when they come out in the real world. Reality. It's crazy. Let's talk about some other things that's reality we need to talk about before we get out of here. What do you think, guys? Anybody in here right now? What do you think of some reality checks we need to talk about? Anything you got? A reality check. I think a reality check that we need to talk about more is men need women and women need men. I think that's like fact, right? People need people. Let me just say it that way. Humans need humans to function, right? This is not an opinion, it's a fact. The issue is if I tell a person right now, I don't need nobody, I could do everything by myself. Listen to this statement, Chris. Every day you wake up and you say, I don't need anyone, I could do it by myself. You know what ultimately happens? You ultimately find yourself by yourself being an old person with cats and sad and depressed. Because in your heart of hearts, you kept telling yourself you don't need anyone. Ultimately, you started believing that you don't need anyone. And now, guess what? You're alone. Let me say this again. Let me say this again. And I want everyone to hear this. The person that always says that they don't need anyone, they always talking about, I can do everything by myself. I don't need anybody. What ultimately happens is you end up finding yourself by yourself, alone, with cats. Talking about how men ain't this and men ain't that by yourself. Talking about women ain't this and women ain't that by yourself, right? Because you've chosen to isolate yourself from the realities of the world. The things you complain about a relationship, why don't you be it? If you want your man to have so much money, sisters, why don't you have a lot of money? Men, if you want your woman to be very attractive, why don't you work on being attractive? And when I say attractive, is mentally, physically, is emotionally attractive. There are people that are very emotionally attractive people. They know how to treat others. They're very respectful, right? And this is the issue that we have. Everything most people ask for in 2023 is things that they can't bring to the table. Their tables are empty. But yet and still they want somebody to bring the whole Thanksgiving feast. Ain't that something? You want someone to bring the whole Thanksgiving feast, but you don't bring nothing to the table. Bring the candy yams, bring the macaroni and cheese, bring the potatoes, bring something, right? But don't be the person asking for things you can't bring. And that's a reality check. In 2023, we need to work on ourselves to the magnitude where I can understand where a high earning person wants to be with someone that earns a lot too. I can understand, right? It's by choice because they work hard to build themselves up. I don't knock a person that has a degree and say, yo, I'm attracted to somebody with a degree. I don't knock that. That's a preference, right? Some girls like short guys. Some guys like tall guys. It's a preference. But the preference could be economics too. I don't think we gotta push it out the equation when it's economics. So a guy say, if a woman wants a taller guy, she's wrong for that. That's her preference. If a girl wants a shorter guy, it's her preference. But if a girl says she wants a guy with economics, that's also her preference. And guys and women, don't be surprised when a guy say he wants something that's attractive. That's his preference. And he has every bit of right to feel that way, right? The issue is when we don't understand and acknowledge that, the fact of the matter is life is about living in reality. In order to change your reality, you have to live in reality. If you're not living in reality, you'll never change your reality. Most people, reality is fake. It's not real. You will never be successful thinking you're going to do everything alone. You know, I'm going to give you a scenario before I get out of here today. One day I went to Target, right? And when I went to Target to spend $300. And when I got to Target, it was a snow day. There was no carts. All the carts was outside in the lot. But I rushed in because it was snowing so hard. No, I'm like, it was raining hard that I rushed into the store. So I didn't grab a cart. So when I got in the store, everyone knows in Target, the carts are usually in the front door as soon as you walk in. But when I got there, the carts weren't there. They were outside. At that very moment, I walked around the store, but again, I went and had the intentions on spending $300. I ended up spending $50 because that's all my arms could carry, right? So I spent $50. After I left the store, I ran back in my car and realized I'm gonna have to come back to Target another day. But in my mind, I said, wow, if the cart guy brought the carts inside, Target would have made an additional $250. So watch this logic. If 50 people did that, take out your calculator, somebody. 50 people did that in a day, right? Do 250 times 50. $12,500 Target just lost. That's how people don't value other people and understand that everything has a value, right? Target just lost $12,500 in that one day because of the fact that that guy didn't bring in them carts. You see the analogy? That's why I said everything and everyone has a value. But you'll look at the corporate guys as only being the value. The corporate guys do their job. That guy do their job. They do their job. They do their job. Everyone has a purpose. Whether it's something I agree or disagree with, at the end of the day, it's a purpose, right? And we need to learn that. A ton of us don't live in reality. Everyone's not going to make $100,000 a year. Everyone is not going to be a millionaire. I'm going to tell you something. The best way to become a millionaire is by creating something that's worth $1 million. It is easier to create something that's worth $1 million than it is to go work for $1 million. Let me say that again. I want you to hit this and hit as well. It is easier, well, let me not say it. It is more practical that you can create something that's the worst. Let me say that one time. It is more practical that a human can create something that's worth $1 million more than they can go work for $1 million. It is so unrealistic that a human can work for $1 million, but it is more practical that a human can literally create something that's worth $1 million. That's the truth, right? We live in a time right now where social media is heavy, and a lot of people are monetizing on social media. You have people that are changing their economical positioning because of the fact that you have your own audience and your own platform that you've created. This is reality. There are tons of people who have gifts, but CNN don't have enough people for these. I know YouTube guys that are better than some of the CNN workers. I know some of the YouTube guys that are better than the ESPN analysts. I know some of the Q the Boss guys who are better than some of these other podcast guys. And I'm not taking no shot, no shade, but I'm just saying, if they ain't cursing and they ain't talking about something negative in politics and negativity, their show wouldn't be as lit. But if I start creating clickbait and start talking negative, we'll flow a lot faster. But the reality of all things is I won't do it because I care about what I'm pushing out to the culture. Because every man and every woman that walks earth will be held accountable for everything they've done in earth. All the people they led wrong, all the people they told to do all the foolish things, you will be held accountable for it. And I refuse to be the guy that you guys help me push my platform up to start talking bad and ultimately create a negative platform. I'm not doing it. Understand, people, you are what you support. Stop supporting negativity and expecting positivity to come of it. Let's support the reality. The reality is men and women work together. We need each other as humans. Let's keep building. Let's keep pushing the right purpose and the right causes. Till next time, don't let that go over your head.